analysis of the trials. And the floor is yours, Professor Stango. We really want to hear what you think, what you see, and what you offer. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for organizing this event and for inviting me. Actually, with the Italian Federation for Human Rights, we deal with human rights violations in many countries, and we particularly focus on the most serious violations and the most systematic ones. So in some countries, it is quite evident that violations are systematic, as I said. So not just some cases, but they happen often and in a certain way that is a serious reason of concern. This is the case of Turkey, unfortunately, where we have been analyzing the situation from several points of view. One of them is the fact that quite often the trials appear not to respect some pillars of the international law, and I would say some basic elements of the fair trial. And in this frame, I attended in September, as you said, some hearings of what has been defined as the girls' trial over there. As you probably know, it is the case when last May, about 40 persons have been arrested by police in an early morning operation, and among them, most were young girls, 15 of them minor girls, meaning at the age from 13 to 17 years old. And by watching the trial, several hearings, speaking with some of them, speaking with some of their lawyers, and reading a lot of the materials that I had translated into English, I noticed that several violations of the rights of minors, let's say child rights, have been committed. So one point was the fact that when these youth were arrested, they normally didn't get the assistance nor immediately of a lawyer, nor of a psychologist that by law had to be present during the interrogation. Some of them were, as far as we understood, forced to give some statement that could be used against their own parents. And also this is evidently an abuse. Then when they arrived to the hearing, I personally noticed that they were usually intimidated by the judges. Again, I saw a very young girl that was very strong at the beginning during her public interrogation by the president of the tribunal, and then at the end, after several strong pressure by the judge, happened to cry because it was really difficult for a young girl to bear the atmosphere and the pressure of that trial. Trial for criminal, very serious accusation, like being part of a terrorist armed group. And then when we read what was in the hands of the prosecution to accuse them, we didn't see anything serious. I personally didn't see any ground for such a hard and serious accusation. Most of the girls were actually just exchanging messages, such as WhatsApp or Telegram messages, asking one to the other where to go for the evening, or for instance, how to have some joint activity, be, for instance, sport activity, or just how to meet for a common prayer. So none of the activities that were reported in the materials for the trial looked to be such serious things as to let the ground for a criminal accusation. So this was, to me, really evident, as I said. So it is a matter in the general situation where probably many rights during the trial not have been violated, where particularly the child's right, meaning rights of people that are not yet 18 years old, have been violated. I would like to add that also the unity of the family has been seriously affected in the trial, and the trial is not finished. There will be other hearings in December and so on. But as I said, the unity of the family was seriously affected. Some of the mothers were jailed. Some of them are still imprisoned, waiting for the next hearing of the session, because the tribunal didn't accept the appeal, the request by the lawyers to have them free. And some of the minors have been left without the mothers. Some of the girls have to care themselves about younger girls in their families. So it is another problem, certainly. So these are some of the points that I have been observing during the trial. Finally, and then I will be available for any other request for information or question, but finally I want to say that with the Italian Federation for Human Rights, we give a lot of importance to the European Convention of Human Rights and to the European Court of Human Rights. I have been personally presenting to the European Court some request for the third-party intervention, supporting the cases of some Turkish citizen that has been sentenced against in prison in Turkey, and whose appeal arrived to the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. Well, unfortunately, I noticed that quite often, I would say systematically, Turkey does not respect the sentences of the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. And this is another very important point. So to arrive to the European Court, it takes several years. It is necessary that all the degrees of the judiciary system in a state party of the convention, such as Turkey, arrive to an end. Then the European Court has to prepare the trial there, to hear all the parties, and then to issue a sentence. And finally, the state should abide to the sentence. The risk is that a person, and specifically a minor who is in a trial now, will have justice pronounced by the European Court of Strasbourg in several years. So all the life of this young person will be seriously affected in a negative way by this kind of judiciary events or unfair trial. I would say even persecution, because this is what I have been seeing in this case and in other cases as well.
Did you have any chance to talk to the lawyers or families, or maybe the detains themselves? 8 people are now imprisoned, right? How are they doing? How is the condition in the prison right now for those people? Do you have any information on that?
I have information through their lawyers. I didn't have the opportunity to visit them in prison. Of course, their treatment is not the ideal, let's say. Many countries, including Turkey, doesn't respect so much the good treatment of the persons in prison. This we know very well. But in particular, one of the person jailed for this trial, who is the mother of a young defendant, is still in jail in spite of having had a transplant and suffering of connected diseases. So she was very much hoping in September that the tribunal would allow her to be free, waiting for the next hearing, but the tribunal refused. And I saw how she was crying after this, and she tried to touch the hand of her daughter, what was impossible. I saw in their eyes how desperate they were for what appeared to be an unjustified additional sufferance given to these people.
So actually, there are a lot of human rights violations and also legal violations in Turkey right now as an ongoing situation, including the children's rights. And also, this is something that affecting individuals, children, physically, mentally. And we are going to talk about it, in a few minutes with our, therapist here. But this situation, their mothers, themselves, these young people, not only worry about themselves, but also parents, and also parents don't worry only about, themselves, but also their children. There is this, two-way psychological impact on those people, especially on children, right?
Yes, definitely, definitely. It was quite evident during the hearings to which I assisted that the psychological impact was very high. I mean, it is serious even for an adult, for a mature person, to be incriminated with such a serious accusation as terrorism.
Yeah.
And while there is, in my opinion, no ground for such an accusation, but we can easily imagine how even more dramatic this is for a young person. So for a girl, 14, 15, 16 years old, to be subject of this kind of judicial prosecution with such an accusation is really a big sufferance. And this is going on already from the beginning of May. So it is more than half a year that these people are suffering for this sort of persecution. And it will continue. As I said, the next hearings will be in December. They probably will be not the last ones, and we are not sure that the tribunal will pronounce justice in a fair way. The opposite. There are unfortunately many reasons to doubt that justice will be pronounced in this case.
Yes. actually, I would like to come back to that point, the future of the trial, specifically this trial. And in your report, in the very beginning, the report, that written by you and your team says that this is a pattern, this is a part of a huge, broader persecution. Now, I would like to turn to Aslı Hankaş, who is the coordinator of Silent Screams exhibition and the board member of Advocates of Silence Turkey. And she has been working on the persecution specifically right after the coup, July 15 coup, but also there are lots of other cases, stories, which were experienced by different, communities in Turkey also before the coup. And I would like to ask her what she witnessed, what she heard, what she talked in terms of the people in Turkey, in the historical context of Turkey, Kurdish people, Gülen movement, volunteers, and specifically children, what they have been experiencing. And after that, we will come back to the final thoughts and insights in terms of the future of this situation.
Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you to Advocates of Silence Turkey and Set Them Free and Ms. Hafsa, everyone behind the scenes for organizing the meaningful panel. Firstly, as a member of society, secondly, as a mother of two beautiful children, this topic is very important to me and many mothers out there. Exhibition of Silent Scream is an exhibition created, explained the terrible human rights violations experienced by the oppressed after July 15, 2016 coup attempt. Through these people's meaningful memories of struggle, these exhibitions aims to be a mission to remember, learn, and preserve the memories of strong and courageous people, all ethnic identities, beliefs, and ideological views. Kurds, Alevis, members of the Hizmet movement, women, children, journalists, politicians, and activists. Beyond all other factors, race, background, and gender, the most devastating aspect of the ongoing persecution is the 705 children still in prison with their mothers. The exhibition includes the many memories of mothers and children who lived inhumane experiences, directly or indirectly through the regime's oppression. As a coordinator of this exhibition, I wish to share 3 stories with you that have stuck with many of us. Mesude and 18-month-old Enes, having lost her basic rights to live, Mesude, a mother of 4, had to escape the country with her 18-month-old baby boy Enes. Having no safety in their transportation, little Enes had to be carried out of the country in a suitcase. This suitcase, not only a memory of Enes, but also a symbol of how far parents had to go in order to protect their one and only children. Another heartbreaking story, Cemile Çağırga, 11-year-old baby girl. Cemile Çağırga, an innocent Kurdish girl, as Cemile was playing outside, security forces, snipers shot her. Cemile's family was denied the right to bury her due to government restrictions. They were forced to store her tiny, lifeless body in a freezer for 3 painful days. Cemile's father called me. He says, "Are you really going to my little daughter's stories all the way in America?" With tears. Another heartbreaking story is from my close friend Hatice Akçabay and her 3 babies. Hatice and Murat Akçabay were living under constant fear of being torn away from their kids due to regime's devastating impact. They were unsafe Unfortunately, life became extremely difficult for them due to constant risk of getting arrested, so the only solution to be safe and free was to flee their country. While trying to cross the Maritsa River to Greece, their fragile boat capsized, Hatice and her 3 babies drowned, and unfortunately we lost them, like many others gone to Maritra's cold waters. Finally, this exhibition has had 25 events in 14 cities around the United States and Canada, hoping to be a voice for children and all those struck by persecution. If you are interested in hosting this exhibition in your city, don't hesitate to get in touch with us.
Before I turn to Melike about her expertise, and I'm sure she is in contact with persecuted children too. Aslıhan, in addition to this exhibition, there was a very recent short documentary in terms of the stigmatization, also persecution of children in Turkey, other children. I hate the word other children. Children cannot be otherized or stigmatized, but unfortunately this, brutal world in Turkey as well, they are also stigmatized and, targeted by the authoritarian regimes. Can you give us a very brief, insight about the documentary?
Yes, sure. In this Meaningful Spirit, The Other Children, a documentary by Advocates of Silence Turkey and Humankind Production, has also been a powerful platform for these stories. By the way, the film won the Best Human Rights Film Award at Cannes World Film Festival, along with recognition from 2 other festivals. 3 years ago, my team and I started this project to raise awareness about the hardships faced by children from families impacted by Turkey's state of emergency and decree laws. We interviewed many children, and this film shares their stories. Making documentary was not easy. Many families were afraid to speak out due to fear of the government. Still, we collected the life stories of 13 children, including, unfortunately, 3 who lost their lives and 10 who shared their experiences. This documentary tells the experience of these children, showing the pain of being separated from their parents and the challenges of visiting them in prison. Every child's story is unique, and their honesty will touch viewers deeply. Some of the children's stories are heartbreaking. For example, Betül Civelek died after visiting her father in prison. Ahmet Burhan Ataç longed to see his jailed father. Furkan Dizdar couldn't get treatment abroad and passed away. Other children risked their lives crossing the Maritsa River to escape hardship. If you wish, I would like to share a special message from Miss Derya, because Miss Derya put in significant effort conducting interviews for this documentary. Even while her husband is imprisoned and she is battling cancer, thank God Miss Derya is from Germany right now, and she is all right, okay. She says, I visited many families to interview the other children. For me, this project represented the silent screams of these children, a voice the whole world needed to hear. It wasn't easy for the families or for the children themselves. They went through so much that it is hard to put it all into words. Even as adults, we struggle to express it, and now our children were expected to tell their stories. The children were excited and anxious during the interviews, afraid something might happen if they spoke out. They found it hard to speak due to their nerves. My own son even asked me, Mom, if I say these things, will they arrest me too? Some children had to ask their mothers to leave the room because their words brought tears to their mothers' eyes. They went through so much, and the mothers knew there were things their children couldn't even fully express. We and our children went through all of this. It left deep scars, and thousands of children continue to live with these pains and traumas, still remaining, the other children still crying out silently.
Aslan, this is so heavy, so overwhelming. I mean, I'm sure that Antonio and Melike will, agree with me. Witnessing, hearing, this is even, not bearable, and let alone children are, going through this. And also, this is affecting not only those children who experience this, but also children who see that kind of, being scared, being afraid, and a secondary trauma issues. So I'm gonna come back to you again for final thoughts. But Melike, what do you see? What do you hear? What do you witness in your, expertise, professional life?
As you said, it's really difficult to talk about this topic, especially this topic. Do you remember Hafsa, Yusuf Kerim Sayın and her mother Gülten Sayın? She's still in prison right now. Yusuf Kerim, who has Ewing sarcoma cancer, stage of 4, last stage of cancer, Ewing sarcoma cancer. And everybody can remember what he said. He's keeping asking, where is my mom? I feel in all the pain in my body. I have to see my mom. Where is my mom? Something like that. Everybody can remember. Last week he passed away. I personally talked with Yusuf Kerim. I remember that, and I can share. State violence often leads marginalizing children to feel invisible, unworthy, and disconnect from their communities. And this damages their self-esteem and identity, making it harder for them to see a positive future. In Turkey, many children, like Yusuf Kerim, pay the price of systemic injustice, are victims of social exclusion and persecution. Such marginalization deepens their sense of isolation, their sense of belongings. To rebuild their confidence and self-worth, it's essential to show these children that they are valued members of society.
And how about the collective trauma and, the society altogether, the children of these dismissed first families, as we see in the trial, as we see, they are targeted as well. I'm sure that you are talking to parents who observe and who are in a helpless situation, not to know how to help their kids, but also children themselves. What kind of trauma are we talking about here?
Actually, something can be a generational trauma, and trauma is passed down from generation to generation. As you know, trauma doesn't just impact one generation, it ripples across entire people. Living burdens of the past to children is the greatest betrayal of the future. The effects of state in thus trauma really stop with one generation. Instead, they are passed down to children, influencing their fears, behaviors, and emotional well-being.
Yes, generational trauma actually is not a new thing. We could see it in different communities across the world, and we know that it's very, it's very dangerous for the future of the country or the community as well. So in terms of the isolation of these marginalized children and their sense of belonging, even I mean, not only in Turkey, but there are some children who just migrated to different countries as well. As my last question in that regard, what do you think about the belonging sense and the society?
Actually, breaking this cycle requires healing not just for survivors, but for their families as well, ensuring that the burdens of the past doesn't overshadow the potential of the future. And then marginalized children grow in isolated their sense of belongings. Without belongings, there is no future for a society.
Mm-hmm.
And then state violence shatters a child's trust in society. Without rebuilding that trust, wounds will never heal.
Yes. So coming back to Professor Stango, how do you project the future of this trial specifically? As you said, there is the upcoming trial in December, and you said that you project that it's not gonna be the final or final trial in terms of this case. How do you project what the judiciary system would tell about this, and how they would take it to the to the next stage? You are muted, Professor Stango. Your mic is off. Yeah.
Yes. One problem that I noticed and I stated also in some interview is that quite visibly the judge and the tribunal, the three judges, are on the same line of the prosecutor. Visibly. So the prosecutor sits at the same level, at the higher level than the lawyers and the defendants and the public. And apparently the judges just are on the same position of the prosecution. So they are not a third party between the accusation and the defense.
So we are not talking about the independence of the judiciary system, obviously.
Exactly. And this was quite visible. This was quite evident, and it is also something that we've been noticing, analyzing several trials in Turkey in the last few years. So for this reason, it is hard to hope that the prosecution of the trial will be fair. Still, we must have hope, and we must still do all that is possible, especially the lawyers of the case, to show the reason of the defendants and to put it clear then the accusation is based on not serious, not trustable evidences that have little to do with the crime of which these people have been accused. So they are not consistent, the accusation and the so-called evidences with the crime. Still, it's difficult in this moment to hope for a positive end of this trial. I also want to say that this is only one trial, although it became quite famous even internationally because it affects several minor girls. Just yesterday, more than 450 people have been arrested in a wide operation in many different provinces of Turkey. And again, we don't have all the elements of this police operation, but there is already some reason to suspect that the accusation have little to do with the facts. But we will see. I mean, it is it is something more, in my opinion, than individual cases or cases that affect some tens or even hundreds of people. It is a social issue nowadays because it affects a big part of the Turkish society. And concluding on children's rights, so are in general children, young persons in Turkey free to choose their kind of education, their kind of social activity, their kind of being together with colleagues or with friends and so on? It seems that they are not really free to operate these normal choices. And this is certainly a general problem.
Yeah, I mean, given the, as just you said, accusations for detaining these, young people, gatherings, as young people socializing and using some digital platforms or applications, which were actually ruled as not a criminal act by the European Court of Human Rights. These young people, along with the other pushed and targeted dissidents, are being detained. And as you said, just yesterday, 459 people in 66 different, regions in cities in Turkey were just taken into custody. So that's, as you said, it's not a hopeful situation, but still we have to be hopeful and we have to be, taking action all the time. What do you suggest and recommend us, the global community, in terms of the specific trial, but also in the broader sense, in the broader picture?
Just to continue to pay attention, to consider how relevant these cases are and how serious the situation in Turkey is from this point of view, and continue to raise our voices. So we should not remain silent. Turkey is a party of the European Convention of Human Rights. So everybody among the people that share the fact of being party of the European Convention has a right to have a say in this. I am Italian, and I am glad if somebody from another country notices that in Italy there is something wrong, and I am glad if the European Court of Human Rights takes into examination what happens in Italy, if it is the case. And so we should do the same as for Turkey. Continue to ask Turkey to respect the European Convention of Human Rights and continue to give to the European Court and other international institutions all the elements to understand what is happening there.
Absolutely, this is so important what you said. Being these people who are persecuted, knowing that other people, other communities are aware of what we are going through right now and doing something for us, it is very impactful when you consider the very recent, abduction case in Kenya. And there was a minor among them who was released, later on. And now both Kenya and Turkey are under investigation of, United Nations Human Rights Council. This is impactful, raising our voices in the global arena makes an impact within these entities who just, pay attention and do something in terms of, holding these countries accountable for their international crimes, human rights crimes. So I'm joining you to call all the human rights communities, advocates across the world to not turn a blind eye what's going on in Turkey, paying attention, continuing raising voices for those people, and taking these situations to European Court of Human Rights, United Nations Human Rights Council, and Child Rights Committee, and all relevant committees. So thank you for being there, standing in, not only standing solidarity, but also existing there physically in Turkey. I know that you are also gonna be there in Turkey in December during the trial. That's so valuable, invaluable, Professor Stango. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Aslıhan, do you want us to do anything in terms of, we don't want these, exhibitions or documentaries continue. We want them, to end. But as what you see right now, is what we see right now, the persecution, would not end very soon. Of course, we are going to be, continuing our efforts. In terms of the exhibition and the documentary, is there anything that as people, as volunteers, we can support you?
Yeah, we will continue to screen the documentary and ensure the exhibition reaches more people. If you host the exhibition and documentary in your city, please contact me.
Only in United States, you mean?
No, we went to Canada, Australia invited us, and we will
Across the world, you mean?
yeah, across the world. We can go and we organize exhibition and documentary.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but going different states has a different value and also impact. Could you please just very briefly what one of the parents in the Kurdish city, if I'm not mistaken, Diyarbakir, told you in terms of raising their voices in America? They were
Yes.
so yeah.
Yes,
Remember this anecdote?
Yeah, Cemile's
Yes,
father.
Cemile's parents.
Yeah, Cemile's father called me and he says, "Are you really going to little my daughter's stories all the way America with tears?" And we received so many message from Turkey and their parents. And
This reminds the Professor Stengel's, statement, right? There are people that are out there who know what we live, who hear what we live, and who go and speak out for us, for what we live.
Yes, yes. As we remember their struggles, let us promise to be their voice and stand up for a world where no child has to suffer like this. Together, we can work for a future where every child is safe, loved, and free to dream.
Absolutely. So, yeah, as I always say, this is not my child, this is not your child, this is not their child, this is our children.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Melike, I know, again, this is really hard. I'm sure that you are also, as a, persecuted and targeted person by the Turkish government, you also go through a lot, but, helping the children in many ways is so invaluable. Do you recommend us, as parents, as community members, as advocates, that we could do for those children, for their well-beings?
Yeah, actually, I worked last more than 6 or 7 years during the COP. Children's family and adults who witness this terrible situation, and then we have to talk much before in our children's. Yeah, we have to listen more, we have to talk more, and we have to create a space. They have to express their self and they have to express their emotion. We have to talk more, and we don't have to hide any reality from our children. We have to talk, we have to all the clarity. We have to say what's going on. I feel lonely, I feel unsafe, I feel terrible. We don't have to hide anything from our children.
That's really important. To wrap it up, I want to say that as the colleagues in ZELLE organization, Melike is a part of the, team as a psychologist, as a therapist. We are not only in, doing individual, you're not only doing individual, consultations, but also we are trying to reach out to affected children through, collective seminars or, games, different events or educational and training panels to not only help and support children themselves, but also educate the parents and, adults in terms of how to, approach them, how to listen them. Because you say that talk to these children, listen to them, but as adults, we have to know how, so we have to educate them ourselves, and we have to feel well, first of all, as individuals ourselves. So thank you so much for your volunteering efforts as well as your professional work. And this event, I mean, I'm organizing, coordinating a lot of events, but when it comes to children, when it comes to youth, this is something else. And I feel that you also agree with me in that regard. Traveling overseas, Professor Stengo, for the children of another country, it tells a lot actually itself. And, taking a exhibition to overseas, even though you Aslıhan yourself with your kids, crossed the Evros River and did this journey in a dangerous way and burden on your shoulders. It's a lot, even bear yourself, but you're also taking care of other people's stories on your shoulders. Thank you so much for doing that. And Melike, as a person who is persecuted herself, this is a lot in your heart to feel, to share, to bear, but also a lot of things coming from outside, but taking into your own body and your own soul. God bless you. Thank you so much. And all the people out there, please join us to be voice of those children, to raise their voices, across the world, wherever it's possible, and to help them have the right, like all other children in other countries, have the right for living in a better condition, in a free, safe, and dignity. And just be their voices in human rights organizations, but also in your communities, in whatever way you could. Any tiny bit action helps. Thank you so much, Dr. Stengo, Melike, and Aslıhan, for joining us.
Thank you.